All right. Good day. I'm Dr. Vishnu Durga from Action Coach Guyana and the Who's Who in Guyana business. And we are continuing our series of interviews with innovative companies to find out a little bit more about them and to also understand how they are operating at this particular point in time. I have with me my guest from IRP Group of Companies, Mr. Dwayne Scott. Dwayne, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, actually. Thanks for asking.
Very good. So IRP is, to me, sounds like a little bit of a new name. Tell me a little bit more about IRP Group of Companies and what do you guys do?
Well, IRP Group of Companies is a family-owned company based in Trinidad and Tobago. That's the general makeup of the group. They've been in existence for over 40 years, heavily involved in the midstream and the downstream operations in the oil and gas industry. But we also heavily focused on fire safety, health and safety, training and people development, and also environmental management. And so IRP Fire and Safety Guyana has been in operation now for 2 years. We are in a joint venture with a local family group. Um, our objective has been focused in Guyana on developing the business to cater for the fire and safety sector, which is all aspect of fire and safety. We are also focusing on energy, and we have been working in close collaboration to deal with the environmental aspect of the local needs of Guyana.
Very good. And I have on screen as well your social media and your website. So irplimited.com, irpltd.com.
Yes,
Very good. So safety is very important.
superb.
And where's the company located?
We're currently located at 24 Water Street, which is we're renting a small section of the Joint Finance building. So we're where the Rice Lab office is. We have a small office there. We will be moving to an East Bank location where we have more space and a more customer friendly environment for customers who have the interest of walking in. And we'll also have a meeting room set up where we can do the meeting and the greeting of clients and sharing and do presentations. And we will have also a small training room set up to support that aspect of the business.
Okay, and health and safety wasn't really top of our agenda in Guyana until we actually discovered oil and we're now oil producer. What have you seen in terms of our, us Guyanese, our willingness to really step up our game when it comes to health and safety? What have you been observing?
Well, I see it quite differently. I believe that the private sector
Hmm.
all had health and safety in very high regards. I also see that the regulatory aspect of Guyana is not enforcing what is needed to ensure adherence to the health and safety activities. If you look at the mining companies, I mean, from how long I can recall, the Lin Mine Bauxite Company, the Omai Gold Mines, all the various gold mines that are operated operators, they have paid great dividends to focus on health and safety. They had robust health and safety structures. Gaisuko, Cayman Sankar. These guys always have very robust health and safety structures in place. What we never saw is how that ties back to the labor law or the labor act or the health and safety act, occupational health and safety act. So there was no enforcement for that. Now, what we have always led the way, and they have created the atmosphere for the investment in Guyana. Because we, with the oil and gas, I mean, oil and gas, as you would see it, can only employ so many people. The other sectors cannot be ignored. The banks IH, the DDL, if you speak with DDL, if you speak with banks IH, you'll get a fair understanding of where their budget is
Mhm.
in exercises they conduct to ensure that health and safety practices are maintained within their organizations. So it is, in fact, a very welcoming experience to be able to engage with these people who have been leading the way in the enforcement of health and safety in their organizations, but also communicating with the non-private sectors and I would say the government sector on how they review and how they, what emphasis is placed on health and safety, and to a lesser extent, how we work to enforce good health and safety practices.
Well, I think it's very nicely that you mentioned all the large companies, and many of them, their health and safety practices are almost self-enforced, because if they don't, it's going to be very difficult for them to trade internationally. My reference was to a lot of the small and medium companies, where we continue to get reports of people engaging in construction without the right level of safety support. And from my perspective, I have seen them pay a little bit more attention. And do you believe that our enforcement uh, will step up significantly?
Well, yes, indeed. That is still a challenge because trying to get a small business to understand the importance of health and safety for the employees is not something that is on on the balance sheet, for
Mm,
instance. They see that as a cost. Um, a different way we look at it is to say, well, if the employee get injured or he perhaps is killed, there is a different cost associated to that. But the general understanding we try to communicate with our clients is the absence of a robust health and safety structure for your work environment results in losses. It
mm,
could be loss of time, it could be in loss of resources, it could be damage to property, it could be, of course, loss of life. And so if we try our best to educate them on this. It's a step by step, a holding hand and walk process where you have to walk them through every level, because every level they'll put up some level of restriction or obstacle as to why they may not see the necessity of doing it. So yes, it has been a challenge, but this is why we go into business.
Now, on this particular platform, we are followed by a lot of businesses, and locally and internationally. So, if I were to ask you, what are some of the things that you actually have to educate these businesses on, that gets them to understand the importance of safety? Because let's say you're talking to a couple hundred businesses at the moment. What
Yeah.
are some of the things that you tell them, first of all, that make them understand the importance of safety?
Well, for starters, one of the simple things that you look at as you walk into a building, the awareness of the environment.
Mm,
Many companies set up a fire emergency response device in their office, but nobody in the building has been trained how to use the device. So, and in some cases, they have a training program and they have a safety officer, but say, for instance, the pull station is locked and the keys is in the manager's desk because there's a fear to have somebody trigger the device by accident or deliberately as a form of a prank. Now, these are risks you have to take, but
mm,
doing so, you also have to make sure that people are educated, because you see, what we try to let them know is that the response unit is not designed only for the employees. The response unit is designed for anybody who is in the building at any given time. The other thing we try to bring people awareness to, which is now being done with the oil and gas industry, is that for every business being conducted on your premises, if you do not have safety signals, you should have a safety briefing
mm,
and simple practices. And so people are aware of walk paths they should use of handrails, the use of doorknobs, the exit and entrance location, they should be clearly demarked. Uh, if there is an emergency exit point, it should be identified. And of course, let people know in advance. If you don't tell them, there should be a notification of steps of actions to be taken in the case of an emergency and specific procedures that you should have in the case of an emergency. So, for instance, you go to a meeting with a client, a GPL, and in some cases, I would ask them, do you expect to have any emergency signals going off today? Do you have any exercises going off today? They say yes or no. If you don't, do you have a specific signal that you would sound in the case of an emergency? And can you tell me what that is? And if there is a signal that would go off, how do I get out of the building? Now, the client themselves is now asking themselves, why are you asking me this? Because this is to say to them, this is a level of awareness we should have all as we take part in our daily activities. As we work in a compound, the safety doesn't start there. It starts from the time you wake up and get out your bed. A lot of people slip and fall and have injuries stepping out of their beds. A lot of people slip and fall having injuries stepping out of their bathrooms. And these are all steps that you try to educate people. And then to the bigger scheme of things, do you have a written policy to govern these things within your organization? And what is this policy speaking about? Who is it geared towards, and why?
Yeah.
So, these are some of the things I try to communicate with our clients. And this is how we kind of break the ground in moving the level of barrier placement to, acceptance.
Well, it's very good that you also mentioned that safety doesn't start at the gates of the workplace. Safety starts from at home. So, what is some advice that you may want to provide to people who are at home when it comes to their own environment, and making sure that they keep it as safe as possible?
Well, generally, if you have a, say, if your floor is tiled, you need to also be aware of placing mats in around your houses to avoid people stepping on them with wet feet. If your yard is concreted, you need to be aware of the buildup of moss in and around your building. If you're if you have, of course, you have electrical connections, you should try to do inspections every year. Have an inspection done every year. If you use a gas stove in your house, in fact, if you use any stove in your house, you should at least equip yourself with a fire extinguisher handy in the case of any emergencies. If you know your rooms are self-contained, you should try to put at least battery-operated smoke detectors in your building so that in the event that there's an emergency, you could deal with it. And that's on the very lowest level, you
Hmm.
know. And of course, generally, if your yard is tiled and your patios are so would be tiled, you usually tell them to make sure that you sweep it down, keep it dry. If you wash it down every day, make sure after you wash it down, you sweep it down so that it's dried. And if for any reason you know that you're going to be working, have small signs that you can put on your door to say wet floor or stuff like that, so people are aware that work was done. Because you never know when something can happen. And similarly, if you know that you have a house set up where you have multiple entrance and exit, you should have a plan within your house to say which is your key exit and your key emergency exit. A lot of houses are built without the understanding of the emergency, and so people put in grills in their houses, but they have no escape. I would
Hmm.
always advise people that if you have at least one window, you should, separate the grill, probably put on one or two padlocks. So in the event you cannot get through the main entrance, you have an escape to the back of the house or to the side of the house so that you can avoid getting locked into your house in the case of an emergency. These are very low level methods of safety that you try to put into place.
And doing this is, very, very useful. It's not just for big companies. Safety does start at home. In terms of contact information, we did have the website up. We have one of your numbers there. Um, is there? You did give us some directions. If you can just, is there any other way in which people can make contact with you guys?
Of course, you can email us. You can hit us up on our Facebook page. Um, the number that you have listed here is my personal number. We're also on LinkedIn. You can hit us up on LinkedIn. Um, yeah, our office is located at 24 Water Street. It's next to the Rice Lab office. You come down to where you come down to clear your barrels. You ask the security for the directions. You come into the office. Our office have a sign, and there's a security outside that can also direct you to where our office is.
Okay, and at this point in time, is the office still operating?
We operate on a temporary basis because of the COVID-19. So we more or less operate from 8 to 12 every day. We are accessible via email, via my mobile phone because I'm the one in the office. the staff is usually working from home unless it's absolutely necessary for them to come down. So yes.
All right. So for portions looking out there, Dwayne did share some really good safety advice for both organizations and for households. So I'd encourage you to, not just like and love this particular video, but to also share it so other people can hear this important safety advice that Dwayne was able to provide to us today. Dwayne,
Sure.
thanks for taking the time out to talk to me today to share this advice, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you for accommodating me and hosting me.
All right.
Much.
Welcome, Dwayne. Take care.
Yes. Have a good day.